Welcome in to the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast. I'm your host, Warren Jordan, and with me tonight is my esteemed co-host, Chad Markin. How's it going, buddy?
Dude, that was so good. That pumped me up. I'm excited. I am doing well, man. I missed you last week. It's the annual take the 8th graders on a camping trip, which is for some reason getting harder. I can't tell you how many kids. This was their first, like 13, 14-year-olds. This was the first time ever sleeping in tents. And then also it was 110 where we were. Yeah, I know. So we were out about an hour and a half east of Palm Springs. We go to Blythe, and then we drive south to this just gorgeous parking lot called Walter's Camp. And we get in canoes from there, and we canoe all the way down to Yuma. It's super fun. But on Tuesday, it was 110. And as we were pulling in, like my eyeballs hurt. Like they were just hot. And then the last night we had scorpion attacks. Like we had like 12 to 15 scorpions because the heat was so hot that the rattlesnakes disappeared. And then I've got all of these Newport Beach kids, and I'm like, for real, mallet smashing scorpions and then like grabbing them with bags and throwing them away to not piss off the naturalists. It was a day. It was a good trip. My daughter survived. Well, that was the best part, actually, was taking Callie. I've done this 10 times now. And she only melted down once. But it's just, I don't know, man. It was good. I'm still tired. And I missed a really fun week of football. I tried to listen to as many podcasts, including ours, on the way back from Yuma. But yeah, man, I'm pumped. Life's good.
Yeah, well, I had a less scorpion weekend, but I did encounter a scorpion of a mom on the soccer field. It's my first foray into that environment of psycho parent. It was so I'm assistant coaching both of my kids' teams, and this one was my younger kid who's on the 3-4s, the first year of soccer. And
I stay soccer
was real important stuff. What happened is that with these 3-4s, a lot of the kids don't have the confidence to be out there, right? They're shy, they're scared. And, the parents will hold their hand and go stand on the field with them. Totally fine with that. No problem. However, just after one of our breaks, all of a sudden there was 5 adults on the field and 4 kids. And that's when it gets to the point of like, well, our little like 3 and 4-year-olds don't even know where to go. And so my kid is on a breakaway to go kick the ball in the goal, which is not very challenging against this group of 3 and 4-year-olds who don't want to play. And Fiona knows what to do. Not that I need her to score more goals. I don't give a crap about who wins. But this mom who has this kid on her hip runs in front of Fiona, blocks the goal, and kicks the ball away.
No.
Yeah. Yes. And that's when I the blood pressure in me rose.
Right.
And I didn't flip out. Not at all. I don't flip out. Like, are you kidding me? I don't even know how to flip out. But I walked out on the field and I said, I'm sorry. We cannot have parents interfering with play. And like before I could even like finish enunciating my thoughts, this Whiskey Tango mama just like flips out on me. Just like, where is that funny? Are you always this animated? And I'm just like, animated? No, I'm a real boy. I'm a real boy.
I'm a real boy.
Wow. And then their coach came up to me and yelled at me like, don't talk to my parents. If you have a problem, talk to me. And I was just like,
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Oh boy, what just happened? Like I just like kicked a hornet's nest, and they
Yeah.
were trying to make me come across as the monster.
Right.
And all I was trying to say was like, don't kick the ball away from 3 and 4-year-olds.
Pretty clear.
It was just a bummer because it crushed the entire environment of the game,
Of course.
and nobody had fun from that point forward
Right.
because those parents flipped out.
Yep.
I'm sure you have 100 stories along those lines,
dude. But yeah, that's like a standard thing for me nowadays.
We're obviously teaching young girls how to play sports. I just wish we had some better coaches in the world to teach young boys how to play quarterback, because I feel like our product this last couple years has been garbage on many fronts. We'll get into that a little bit and maybe a few other things tonight on the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast.
Nailed it.
All right, welcome back into the show here. So before we dive into our, league tear down sort of approach that we've been doing these past couple weeks, we want to check in on some bragging rights. So as we move through the season, we're going to start laying down some, we'll disagree on some things, and we'll lay down some bets between the two of us of who has which side, and we're going to check in on those. So we have one on the board so far, which came up 2 weeks ago, and that is Breece Hall, Chatham, versus Super Camario, me. So let's check in on that. How are we doing, Chatham? What do you think? Who's in the lead?
Not Chatham. I don't know any other way to say not Chatham. I was really happy with Breece's floor of like 16, 20, 16. And then whatever they're smoking up in frickin' Denver. Actually, it wasn't even at Denver. It was at home.
It was at home in the rain.
God.
Should have been a running game.
At home in the rain, and 10 attempts for 4 yards, 2 receptions. Like, dude didn't put up 3 points. And he was the number 3 pick going into the season for running backs. I don't know if CMC.
10 carries for 4 yards. It could be worse.
Could it?
Yeah, he could have gone negative.
On 10 carries? Right? Like at least one of those breaks for 9 yards? I mean, I don't know.
Breece Hall is one of those like dancers and looks for a better option and wants to explode and make a big play. Whereas Braylon Allen just goes downhill. And so that's why Braylon Allen was able to get, 4.5 yards a carry compared to Breece Hall's 0.2 or whatever it is.
Right. No,
where
0.4. I mean, it's so
when
bad.
you have a good defense that just like closes the gap on the ball carrier and shuts the play down, like Breece Hall, he didn't get it done. Like they needed a different scheme for Breece Hall to be successful. And what's his face, the former Broncos coach, was not ready for that.
No, God, he's dog poo. Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's definitely not baby out with bathwater, but to our earlier conversation about this, I mean, his next 5 weeks suck. Well, he did put up 20 against, he put up 16 against New England, but he goes Minnesota, although, Henry ran all over Buffalo. So he goes Minnesota, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, New England, Houston. That's 3 of the best defenses in the league right now, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, and Houston. So it's not like it gets better for him. The end of the season is great, but like my one QB team, oh, dude, he's going to be on fire after.
Arizona, Indianapolis bye, Seattle, Miami, Jacksonville, Rams.
But your guy, Kamara, I mean, he didn't even do anything on the ground, and he had what, 7 receptions? It's like, well, I think I lost this bet. What do I have to?
Yeah, and obviously this will be a point per game bet because Kamara is not going to make it through the season with with this much work.
Why? Obviously, you're at 25 points per game. I'm at 14. So let's just we could also just do total points, and you're still probably going to win that.
Right. I was already doubling them.
You're straight doubling me.
Anyway, so that's a bit confusing. We didn't come into the year thinking that Kamara would be the RB1. Although, I mean, I love us. He's my favorite fantasy player of all time. I don't know. Do you want me to just what else can I pull out?
Keep going. Just show us your tramp stamp Kamara tattoo. That would be great.
Yeah, I almost changed into my Super Mario shirt, but I wanted to advertise for.
I love that. I was going to bring it
tonight.
Up. Yeah.
Fast draft. I emailed Matt a few weeks back and said, "Yo, can I get some swag so I can wear it on the pod?" And he's like, "Absolutely. How many do you want? What sizes?" Like, cool.
Dude, so I love that, man. I love how into the fans he is and into his people he is. He's just seems like a great dude.
Yeah, the way he puts it is, if you're going to take the time to email me, I'm going to email you back.
It's freaking awesome.
I love it. Could you imagine Andy or Jason or Mike from the fantasy footballers responding to an email?
No, they got deuces out.
Well, moving along to other confusing situations. So we're going to dig into 3 individuals here. So first off, Garrett Wilson. Coming into the season, where was Garrett Wilson? He was a wide receiver
6,
5. Yeah, I was going to say, so JJ, CD, Jamar, Amon-Ra, Garrett Wilson.
I was going to say AJ Brown, but yeah,
whatever. I think he was 5, probably 6. 5, 6, right? That was all predicated upon, well, he's a great prospect, and now he's got Aaron Rodgers and nothing. So we want to look at why he's doing nothing, and really think there's 2 strong factors. Number one, offensive line sucks. I think Aaron Rodgers was hurried or even contacted 18 times this past game.
Right.
Hands on him by a defender 18 times, which is not good. Aaron Rodgers might not make it through the season if he's going to get that much pressure.
Right.
But also, Garrett Wilson has faced elite level cornerbacks.
He has.
Charvarius Ward, Ladarius Sneed, Christian Gonzalez, Patrick Surtain. Surtain is the best one in the league. Ward is top 3. Mm-hmm. Gonzalez is his second year, but I think we'll be putting his name up there with those guys by the end of the season.
Listen to this quote from Wilson. He said, "I see a lot of teams." This is what he said after the game. "I see a lot of teams mix it up and stuff like that. I don't think we do. I think we know our identity." And basically, he's sort of attacking Nathaniel Hackett, right? So,
yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Nathaniel Hackett is not good.
He's not good.
I mean, I think that Aaron Rodgers, it's like that Nagy situation, right?
Right.
So, it might be a factor into one of our next topics with Mahomes. Nagy's back with the Chiefs. These fucking retreads.
Right.
There's a reason why they lost their job. I mean, maybe we'll make that a topic for next week. How about we just dig in next week? Let's just dig in deep on all the OCs.
Yep.
The retreads that have lost their job. Albert wanted us to talk about this.
Which is such an interest. It's fascinating, right? How do these guys get jobs again when they just blow it?
Nepotism, man. It's
no, I know.
Circle jerking nepotism.
Yeah.
buddies. We're all buddies. Let's give our buddies some jobs.
Ugh.
And then you've got the OC from Washington coming in,
Right.
just doing awesome stuff. Like, he's not from the Shanahan tree. He's going to make his own tree.
Right. And I mean, and to this, I think that, I mean, we can short tables. We will talk about the Commanders in a second, but just bringing that up, like Cliff Kingsbury is a terrible head coach. Like, that was so obvious. He's doing a really good job in Washington right now, sort of like backtracking to what made him worth the gamble. And so anyway, I just think that
Is he?
probably not. You want to table it or you want to start it now?
Well, I mean, back to the Nathaniel Hackett point. Like, Nathaniel Hackett sucks. Matt Nagy sucks. And they rode on the coattails of, Josh McDaniels sucks, right? And they rode on the coattails of good athletes. Like,
Right.
Is it the player or is it the coach?
Right. Right. And that's too hard in the NFL, right? Because, you get a guy, but then you get a guy like Hurts. Like, what the fuck is going on in Philly? They haven't been able to overcome. They also have a bunch of injuries, so that's not entirely fair to them. But like,
yeah, that one's tough.
That one down is tough.
Open judgment when you don't have your top two options.
Yeah. So that's unfair, but also Saquon makes it absurdly easy for them, right? But then,
without Saquon, what's their record?
Dude, they're poo-poo caca. So, but you do look at Cliff Kingsbury, and what he did with Texas Tech was revolutionary. I mean, he basically.
No. Oh, wait. What did Mahomes do for him at Texas Tech?
Okay, so
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Hear you.
Bring it back.
Hold on. Didn't Baker also start there?
Who?
Didn't Baker Mayfield also start at Texas Tech?
I believe so, yeah. Before he went to Oklahoma. Yeah.
Right. He was the guy. Hackett was the guy that, or not Nathaniel Hackett, sorry. Cliff Kingsbury was the guy that people were going to play with. All these quarterbacks were going to play with. And in college, it's much easier to run both shows, right? Because you have children, as opposed to professionals who have egos and are dickheads, right? Like, we all know that what's his fart Peterson is.
That makes sense. That makes sense in college. Like, let's run the fast-paced run and gun.
Yep.
Sure. I mean, if I was Mahomes, I'd go there too. But was it Cliff Kingsbury that made it successful, or was it Patrick Mahomes?
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I would rather the retread be a Cliff Kingsbury who had demonstrated his competence as an offensive coordinator, and then demonstrated how incompetent he was as a head coach, than someone like Hackett.
So Hackett,
yes,
it fits the same mold as Kingsbury, right? So he demonstrated as a coordinator. He failed as a coach
in the NFL. He demonstrated in the NFL where you have elite talent.
Okay.
Like, those guys barely coach in the NFL when you have Josh Allen, right? I mean, you're barely coaching when you have Josh Allen. I don't know. I do. Those are actually very similar paths.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, maybe all it means is Cliff Kingsbury isn't an idiot 4 weeks in the season, and Hackett is.
Or maybe they ran into, let's see, Tampa Bay, decent. Giants, terrible. Bengals defense, terrible. Cardinals defense, terrible. Let's see how they do this week against Cleveland, which they're not awesome.
Not awesome.
And they're at home. Let's see how they do next weekend against Baltimore.
Right.
And then in week 8 against Chicago.
Yep.
Week 10, 11, 12, 13.
No.
15, 16. I think by week 12, the Cowboys will get healthy. So the Cowboys are missing Deron Bland, their best secondary.
Mhm.
Trayvon Diggs is recovering from an ACL. He's not 100%.
Mhm.
DeMarcus Lawrence is out. And now Micah Parsons is out. Like,
So I'm just saying,
the
like,
top 4 are out.
but week 10, maybe Micah Parsons isn't back.
I don't know. I don't really know the severity of their injuries. I
I'm
just
kind of
know that they're
excited.
banged up.
I'm kind of excited to see Washington. I mean, like the NFC East is like that division, right? Where
If
someone random wins every year.
If I were in redraft, not that we give 2 farts about redraft,
Right.
I would be capitalizing on my Commanders.
100%.
Yeah. Because I don't think they're going to run that gauntlet from week 10 through the playoffs. It doesn't. I would
You'd be
sell.
selling. Yeah. So I just sold Brian Robinson for Mixon literally today for that. And it was a 1-to-1, and I couldn't believe the guy went for it. Redraft, not dynasty. This is not dynasty.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, I'm gonna keep moving this along. Let's get Bijan. I don't think there's much to talk about there.
There's not.
So let's keep the Bijan one short. So back to being on the topic of confusing elite dynasty assets. We started with Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Bijan is next. Not performing. I think that you can chalk most of this up to facing some of the toughest defenses in the league so far. They have a new quarterback. They have a new OC. There's a lot of new here. I think that there's better days ahead for Bijan and the Falcons. And I think that if you look down the road in their playoff schedule,
yeah, it's so good.
You're going to get some points.
Yep. Yeah, no, the only thing to add to that is to just elaborate further on the quarterback thing. He didn't play with them until week 1, right? So they're learning this together. I have nothing for Bijan. I think we just move on to Mahomes as the most confusing dynasty asset because was it Tim or Ross? Ross?
Tim.
It was Tim who brought up in our league that someone flat dropped in redraft Mahomes. And that's confusing for dynasty because in redraft, I think Mahomes is right now quarterback 17. And you and 16. I 16.
Not to quibble. Yeah.
I was way off. That's fucking irresponsible of me. It didn't throw me off at all. Mahomes
He did score 16 points last week. I mean, it's right there.
It's right there. I'm a failure.
Handing it to you.
I don't know what I do on this. I just look pretty, and now I'm in the garage. I don't even know what's happening. Mahomes' defense is one of the great defenses we were talking before in their last. If you go back all the way a year to November 26th, they have beaten teams by more than 1 possession only twice, which means basically Mahomes' job was don't turn the ball over. And he's a great quarterback. He will go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks already, regardless of the next 11, 12, 15 years of his career. He has already won. He wins every game, and he's the one who wins the game. And so I think he is just so masterfully in control of his craft right now that he recognizes that their defense is going to control the game, and his job is to do everything possible to add time to possession. And so he's not a redraft asset. But this dude is going to have 12 more years.
Yeah, so what Tim brought up is that he, in one of his home friends leagues, somebody dropped Mahomes and he didn't get picked up on waivers this week.
Right.
Which I think is absolutely ridiculous. If you look at so there's a couple things working here. everything you said is legit. Their defense is awesome. They no longer have Hill.
Mm.
They don't need to put up the same amount of points they needed to put up 3 to 6 years ago, back in that range of 3 to 4 years where Mahomes was throwing 45 to 50 touchdowns every year because their defense was garbage. And you see that over time, right? You look back at like the Drew Brees Saints. Remember those, like the Saints Giants game that was like 65-55, like stuff like that. Like, that doesn't happen unless it's like Seahawks Lions, which
So good.
seems to be the only two teams that shoot out anymore.
That show up ever.
So that is the thing. The defense is the thing. They don't need to score as many points. They don't have a downfield threat that's reliable. However, there's a couple things at play here. There's also the league shift towards the too high shell defense, which was a result of Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. The defense has decided, let's just sit back and prevent the big play. And they've been running that defense against the Chiefs since the playoffs in 2022.
Right.
And it worked then. So then the beginning of 2023, last year, the Bills did it again. Like, ooh, that worked. Now it's a copycat league, so everybody's doing it. And now everybody's doing it across the whole NFL, not just against the Chiefs. And so what you're seeing is across the entire league, passing touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, all of those numbers are down big. Right. Remember after week 1, it was like the worst week in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, fewest touchdowns, fewest, right.
Running is up. So I think it'll ebb and flow. Like, I don't think this is the end of Patrick Mahomes throwing 45 touchdowns. Again, we're looking at dynasty. We care about dynasty. Patrick Mahomes is only, 28 years old?
Yeah.
He's going to be a top 10 quarterback basically every year. I'm sure he'll drop out of it 1 or 2 or 3 years even over the next 10 years. But he's going to be a reliable top tier, 10-ish tier quarterback for the next 10 years. Like,
yeah.
And that's why Patrick Mahomes in Dynasty is still, I mean, what player profile I have. So they've already vaulted Jaden Daniels over him in Dynasty. Like, I don't agree with that. I'm sorry.
Well, I love that.
Because you have him.
I have him. and I traded up for him.
But no, that's ridiculous. Like, I have Patrick Mahomes in our new Superflex league. There's no fucking way I would trade Patrick Mahomes for Jaden Daniels right now, straight up.
Right.
No way.
I mean, unless you're trying to win this year, because that's what Jaden Daniels 1 year is going to be.
Back to our point, though. What happens to Jaden Daniels in the playoffs against New Orleans and Philly?
He's going to crush.
He's going to get his teeth knocked in.
Stop being ugly about it. He's going to be fine this year. Like, I don't know what you're saying. I have no idea why you're bringing bad vibes.
Let's do it. From week 10 through week 17, Jaden Daniels or Patrick Mahomes?
Well, we got to look at Patrick Mahomes, man.
Okay, let's look.
Honestly, it really doesn't matter because Patrick Mahomes is a wiener face and he sucks at football nowadays. All right, so Patrick Mahomes is Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs, Texans, Steelers. Okay, if you're going,
that's not easy.
Chargers, Texans, Steelers.
That's not easy.
What is that? Hold on, that's 18. Is it 17 years? It's 18 weeks, right?
So we're starting at week 10. I mean, I'm giving you the Broncos. Mahomes starts with the Broncos. Broncos,
Bills, Panthers, Raiders,
Vegas, Chargers.
Hey, listen, I've already lost the Breece Hall one. Let's fucking double down.
This is not easy. This is not an easy. I mean, this is not an easy Chiefs schedule.
It's not easy.
Do it.
But hey,
right.
to
put it on the board.
To add to your argument about fantasy, we talked about this. that Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback that ever played the sport, I love Montana, but the greatest quarterback that ever played the sport was one time in 5 Super Bowl seasons the number one quarterback. But if you also go, like this dude had in 2021, he was the number 3. In 2017, 16, 15, he was 2, 4, 5. You go back to 12, he's 2, 11, he's 4, 10, he's 3, 9, he's 8. He got hurt. 7, he's 1. Like that, dude. Mahomes is gonna have a QB1 season or QB 3, 4, 5, 3, 2, 1, blah 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 in his next 12 years.
Even if he doesn't ride in the QB 1 through 5 over the next 10 years, just the simple fact that he is going to be one of the consistent quarterbacks for the next 10 years, you can't say that about anybody else.
Stop talking about Brock Purdy like that. It bothers me. Just say Brock Purdy is the only other one. That's not a homer thing.
Maybe CJ Stroud. I'll give you CJ Stroud. If we want to bring back something else you were wrong about, CJ Stroud might be the other one.
I'm just gonna keep betting you, and anyone who actually listens to this just knows, like, stop choosing Chatham's side. When Chatham argues, he's wrong. That's fair. But I do mean that though. Like, it's pretty obvious that Mahomes will A, rebound as a fantasy player, and B, selling him in Dynasty is dumb. Redraft is an entirely different conversation.
I would not even dropping him even in redraft is insane. Like, if you want to stream him, fine.
Yes.
Do not drop him.
All right, let's do good vibes.
Good vibes. Commanders. I think we've touched on this a bit. I think we want to quickly jump into some of the things. Why don't you talk about the good vibes, and then I will counter your play devil's advocate.
Yeah. So Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the history of the sport. So, I mean, there's just that, right? I mean, he's his completion rate is 82%. He's got a very low bar of
which is 50. The best in the league ever.
Yeah.
4 games.
He's the best.
Eclipsing Tom Brady's record.
Did I not say he's the best quarterback in the history of the sport? Like, I thought I said that. And he's got a low bar of 50 yards rushing, and I forget exactly what the number is.
Which he has the most rushing yards by a QB through 4 games.
You're right. And so if a QB hits, like, I forget exactly what the number is, but the footballers say it all the time. It's like 600 or 700 yards. Then you cannot finish outside the top 6 as a QB. So, I mean, they have the best quarterback in history. So, like, they're fine. Brian Robinson, post his shooting and his injuries and trying to beat old farts at his position, he has sent them all away. And he is having an incredible season. McLaurin, they're starting to hit with all of the targets that he deserves as Jaden Daniels kind of figured that out. It took 2 games, but games 3 and 4, he is getting exactly the targets that he deserves because he should be a wide receiver 1 in the league. Zach Ertz sucks. That doesn't matter. And their defense, despite what they did against Arizona, is Pupukaka. And so they will keep having to put up points. So this is a team that, outside of what we said earlier, you want to target what they're providing. You hit the other side.
So the majority of his production, while all of those passing stats are true, the majority of his production is coming from his running game, which is great. We love that in fantasy. However, he's averaging like 13 carries a game.
Yeah.
I don't know how sustainable that is. He's got a pretty slight frame. It's almost like there was another Washington Redskins quarterback.
How dare you?
Was really good at running the ball.
Nope, don't say it.
He was like the 3rd one. I don't remember. Anyway,
he might have been. Was he also like the 3rd pick? God, he could have been so good at football.
I mean, I'm not trying to be like a Jaden Daniels hater. I'm very impressed. Like he's
Yeah,
placing the
he's
ball
stud.
well for sure. However, I will say he's playing against the last 3 games,
Mm.
3 of the worst secondaries in the league,
Just
and
teams.
3 of the worst defenses overall.
Right.
So let's not get too carried away. And that's why we placed our bet from
Mhm.
weeks 10 through 17.
Right.
Because in that range, actually, I would have even probably given you 8. Like he plays Chicago. It like goes easy, hard, easy, hard,
It
easy,
does.
hard. Cleveland, Baltimore, Carolina, Chicago, New York, Pittsburgh. So we're gonna start to understand on a bi-weekly basis who Jaden Daniels is, because I don't think we know yet.
No, yeah, I agree.
4 games does not a career make.
Right.
Um,
Super pumped for him though, right? I mean,
Absolutely. He's
yeah.
clearly better than Caleb Williams.
Did you hear that I mean, who knows how real this is, right? This is like a political statement for sure, but the Washington GM said after Sunday
Yeah.
that even if they had the 101, they would have taken Jaden Daniels. To
Well,
your point,
every smart fantasy
yes,
analyst, and not just from a fantasy perspective, these guys also look at like
right,
who's the best one.
yeah.
Every person I respect had Jaden Daniels above
So
Caleb Williams.
if you remember a year ago, you and I got on here and we were talking about which wide receivers are we most interested in, and we said we won't even talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. And I brought up Malik Neighbors, and I said Malik Neighbors was 2, and I said he fucking has a bum throwing him the ball at quarterback, because I was looking at his junior stats and the junior of Jaden Daniels, sorry. Jaden Daniels as a younger player, and he was not that good. I mean, Jaden Daniels threw receptions to Brandon Ayuk at Arizona State, and the maturity that I think is so much more necessary with a quarterback,
Oh yeah, for
right,
sure.
than a wide receiver. Like the wide receivers, if you don't see that dominator early, that the dominator standing early, then like they're probably not ever gonna equate in the NFL. But Jaden Daniels, like he just kept progressing in his senior year. I mean, he was so good. I mean, and it wasn't one. He does need to your point, he's slight. He does need to learn how to not take the Tua hits.
It's interesting. I can't say I've been watching the Commanders games supremely closely, and I think I need to going forward, because I've been trying to validate my own biases and between Will Levis and Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors, and that's where I've been focusing.
Dude, Neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Check
much fun to
that
watch.
box. Anyway, we're approaching 1 hour in, and we've made it through 4 topics. So we're not going to cover all these tonight.
Let's not do any bad vibes. Let's just not be bad vibes.
Oh, really?
Do we want to bad vibes it?
No, we don't have to. We can just say this. Don't play a single Cleveland Brown.
Yeah, sure.
Las Vegas Raider, New England Patriot, or Bronco. However, I will say, but for the Raiders, I think Jacoby Myers might be startable in redraft, but I don't give 2 farts about him in Dynasty.
Also, Nick has Tucker, and that could be a good one real quick.
In Dynasty? No.
No. Yes. What do you mean no? What do you have? Like 9 targets last week? I mean, first of all, Nick's trying to lose, but Tucker is explosive. He's got all the right stats. He could end up being a guy.
Dude's 5'9", 180 pounds on the Raiders. Not interested.
Warren, you're 5'9", 180 pounds.
So he blew up against Carolina. You know who he plays this week? Denver. Then Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they ain't winning. They have.
If you want to play him in week 7 against the Rams, go ahead.
Boom.
Yeah.
Hopper for the win.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, back to good vibes. Let's stay positive on the Saints. I think that, anybody who is jumping on a car is an idiot. But there's no reason to get off of the Kamara Olave Shaheed train. I actually think Shaheed.
I've gotten off on Kamara like 4 or 5 times this season.
I said their train, not get off. Yeah. No, you should do that. And that's
you're talking
healthy.
about roster baiting.
Listen, just you do you. And if you want to sell that to me, I will take it in the face. That's aggressive.
Gross. No, I'm not into that.
So that team's awesome. I also think
they also have a soft schedule. So Kansas City, not soft. Tampa Bay, medium. Denver, hard. Chargers at this stage, not hard. Carolina, not hard. Atlanta, they just whooped them. Cleveland, Rams, Giants, Commanders. Yes.
Yeah.
I just hope Kamara can stay healthy.
If you could figure out how to get Kamara for us in the great and powerful league, that would be great.
I am so sick of that league. It's just too deep.
Yeah, it is.
Like one injury, like, fuck it.
Yeah.
It's over.
I know, man. I know.
2 QB, 3 running back, 5 wide receiver, 2 tight end, and a flex.
And nobody trades. Like, it's super annoying that people only trade with Matt.
I'm so over that league. I'm done.
Yeah. All right.
It takes too much time, like every week you have to make a trade because you lost one of your 15 starters.
and so like, the number of people who are just trying to constantly trade hump you, and you're like, dude, your guy sucks.
Yeah.
Stop. Like, who was I trying to give Garrett Wilson for last week?
The dude wanted Jamar Chase and Jordan Love for, was it Bijan? I think it was Bijan. Yeah.
And I was like,
no.
Yeah, we offered Wilson for Bijan. His team's 0-30 at 4 weeks into the season.
Plus. Yeah, we don't even talk about them.
Fuck that guy. All right.
One thing I will say about the Saints is I really wish Taysom Hill would just get hurt and stay hurt. Because he's been getting these rib injuries. Unfortunately, Kamara also has, I think, a broken rib.
Kamara's a superhero. He doesn't get hurt. Also,
the Taysom Hill touchdown vulture shit really pisses me. It's been pissing me off for like 5 years.
At minimum.
But the offense consolidation in New Orleans, if we can get Taysom Hill out of the picture, it's Olave, Shaheed, and Kamara. Like, that's great.
Warren, I have to notify the FBI. You're scaring me. I feel like Taysom Hill's life's in danger. Yeah, obviously. Also, yeah. So back to the Texans. Dell is fine.
Yeah, Tank Dell is fine. Other than getting whooped in Minnesota last week, which apparently is the best team in the league right now.
Right.
The Texans, they're looking great. Nico Collins is currently the wide receiver
Uno.
1.
So good.
Season. And what's most impressive is he only has 2 touchdowns doing that.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yep. So I do think that there's a bit of a reason why this is happening, right? So you talk about offensive consolidation. So when Tank Dell has been hurt, he came into the season hurt. He got hurt again. He's hurt all year. Mixon played 1 game and he's been hurt. Their backup running backs are trash.
Holy crap. That
So
was
it's
so bad. Cam Akers was so bad.
so it's just Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs. So of course those guys are going to produce.
Right.
In redraft, would I hold Nico Collins and just write it out? Or would I try and turn him into like a Nico plus for Justin Jefferson or something? I think I would sell.
You would sell
I
on
mean,
a Nico, or sorry, a JJ or an Amon Ra or a Jamar Chase or.
yeah, absolutely. I don't think Nico Collins is the same level of athlete as those guys, not even close.
But I do think that their offense is so good. And their defense is, I don't know, that's a good point. I mean, and without
Oh,
mixing on the field, like Mixon game one would put up what, like 25, 30 points. Like I also think this. I think that my bigger takeaway from this isn't that Nico is an unsustainable wide receiver one. I'm not saying he's going to finish as the one. So it might be sellable as the one, but if you have him and you also have, I don't know, because you probably picked him up in late second round. Maybe you got him at the 2-3 turn. But if you also have Amon Ra in the first round, or a JJ or a Chase or a not an Adam, sorry, a CeeDee Lamb. I think the bigger one here is Tank Dell. I think now is the right time to sell on Diggs. With Tank Dell off the field and Mixon off the field, Diggs saw what, 12 targets this week? There is no freaking way that CJ Stroud, who lobbied for Tank Dell to be on his team, is going to give Stephon Diggs more targets than Dell. And I think Dell does more with those targets, right? Like Dell 2 weeks ago just dropped a 60-yard touchdown. It was a touchdown. And then nobody's saying anything negative about Dell. There's like, it was hurt last week. And they both had 6 targets that game. And so if you go like that's for me on Houston, that's the big takeaway, is that I think Nico's legit. I did not see this. I know that a lot of people were calling for it. I was not high on Nico. I'd actually in all the leagues I'm in, I got him super late in one. And I'm obviously happy to have him. But I think Tank Dell is the buy low. And Diggs is
well,
the sell.
I think that was the right initial opinion. I mean, you're talking about redraft, which isn't our stick, but whenever you have the ambiguous wide receiver core and you've got 3 good options, you never want to pay for the most expensive one.
Right.
You don't want to pay for Robert Woods when you can get Cooper Kupp 2 rounds later, that sort of thing, right?
Right.
Like, you got a good situation and 3 options that could be something. Don't pay for the one that comes at a premium. But like we were just saying, what's happened is, well, the situation has gotten better in Nico's favor. And it's not that Nico is that much better than his teammates. It's that, well, Tank's hurt. Running back's hurt. And Nico is definitely way better than Stephon Diggs at this point in Diggs' career. So, of course, he's the number one option. And he's looked great. Like, don't get me wrong. I remember listening to people who were truthers for Nico in the first 2 seasons. When, now that we're so far removed from that, people just say, well, he didn't do anything for 2 years. Well, no, he was hurt for 2 seasons.
Right.
He missed 2 years because he was hurt, not because he didn't do anything and sucked.
Right.
And so I remember it's funny. I think you drafted him in our initial dynasty league. I think you drafted him. You dropped him. I picked him up. I dropped him. Nick picked him up. Nick dropped him. And then I picked him up and I held him until beginning of this season, where I traded him and Debo to Nick for like a first and a something.
Yeah. No, I remember because I drafted only old guys in that initial draft, and then I'm like, Nico Collins has a bunch of great buzz, and then he's putting up, Mikhail Corley numbers, right? Where like the expectation this week is 0.4 points, and I probably said his name wrong, but you know what I'm talking about.
Malachi.
Malachi. Yeah, and we're more mature now, and we also know how to use the taxi, etc. To be like, don't drop him. Like dropping is so dumb, right? If I'm gonna drop someone, it's Eric Gray, who is blah blah blah, many seasons into the league, and his window has passed. But man, yeah. So anyway, yeah, I agree. I think it's fun to watch. I just, us. We're big reclamation guys, whether it's Sam Darnold or Geno Smith. But Nico isn't even a or Wilson or Williams. Sorry, Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams out of Detroit. These guys who just, they come in the league and there's enough in front of them that, the league forgets about them for 2-3 years, and then boom, they come on exactly as they were supposed to. And it's fun to see that happen for these dudes.
Speaking of Detroit, let's go off script here to close this show down, because I've got a lot of neighbors that are Seahawks fans, and they've been interested in hearing what we have to say.
Yeah,
about the Seahawks.
I love that.
Let's go there for a few minutes, because I can then forward them a link to this show and say, hey, why don't you guys tune in at 1 hour and 3 minutes, because we finally got to the Seahawks.
Okay, first of all, I got low battery warning. Second of all, they need to chime in immediately for the soccer takedown to start this thing.
The soccer takedown? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They'll all know who you're talking about. They'll know this baby mama with the drama situation.
Yep. Yeah, definitely one of the Seahawks fan dads was there for that. So I told all of my neighbor friend dads at the birthday party on Saturday night. I apologized to them. I said, I'm sorry, but you will no longer be undefeated after the game on Monday. And they, most of them are realistic. Like, yeah, well, our defensive line is banged up. We're missing 3 of our front 7. And like, yeah, well, I mean, make excuses all you want, but they're going to lose to the Lions. And sure enough, they did lose to the Lions. They gave them a good run, I will say. They gave him a good run. Other than that one unfortunate turnover, it would have been a little closer, I think. But that was a great game.
Dude, so much fun.
Who saw Kenneth Walker coming off an oblique injury and putting up 3 tutties against one of the best run defenses in the NFL?
So I had to start him in a couple leagues because I'm so thin because of the injuries. I had Pacheco in one league. I had Ramondre in another, and I was just like, Ramondre's not injured, but Walker. So I had to start him. So I was rude. God damn, man. Like to think that it's pretty cool to think that he and Brees came out of the same draft class, and they will end up being, I mean, hopefully those dudes pull the same, like, Henry CMC thing where they're just good in the NFL for 10 years. But gosh, dude, Walker looks like he looks like a top 5 guy, period.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you're talking redraft or dynasty, he's big. I forget how big he is. Like
his plays are explosive. He just needs, I don't know. He needs to somehow stay on the field.
Well, I think I really loved how much they spelled him with Charbonnet, and I know that that's annoying in fantasy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's incredible. The new offense under the new coordinator has completely unlocked DK. I tried to undo your trade today with with Nick. I went after him with Waddle instead of Pacheco. Just saying, like, obviously Waddle will have a longer career, so it's better for Dynasty. But end of the day, he likes your trade better, which is great. But DK's been unlocked, and then JSN. It's so nice to see JSN leap Lockett.
Yeah,
in that target.
It's plays per game. It's a neutral game pass script.
Yep.
Passing volume.
Yep.
So it's like choosing to pass over run in a neutral situation. It's moving. It's playing faster. It's exciting, man. Like
That's a fun team.
It's a fun team to watch.
Yeah,
for sure. I can't wait for that Thursday night game in 2 weeks against the Niners. That's going to be a fun game to watch. I mean, they're going to torch the Giants at home this coming week, so they're going to be 4-1. The Niners will be
3-2. They got the Cardinals, right?
So they're at home versus Arizona, which is a division game. So you can't just chalk it up immediately.
You're
right. They're 2-2 at the moment. So hopefully they're 3-2. So it's 3-2 versus 4-1. And yeah, we'll see. It's at Seattle. That's going to be a big game.
Yeah, it'll be a big game. But that team, I mean, the entire offensive side is fun to watch. I think Lockett, Geno threw the ball like 55 times or something crazy. So everybody got targets. But it's nice to see that the important targets were Metcalf, JSN, running backs, Lockett. And so I think that's super important for fantasy. And then for long-term fantasy, to see that JSN has a place in this offense after just an abysmal rookie year, and where he came out as the number one wide receiver last year, right? So,
Shane Fraudrin, who was the OC last year, and is now the OC in Chicago, and you look at what Shane Fraudrin is doing to Rome Odunze.
Oh my God!
Like he doesn't even understand how to utilize his third weapon.
Dude, he should not be the third weapon.
Shane Fraudrin should not be in any way involved in the NFL.
Fraudrin is brilliant, by the way. I'm sure other people have said it, but I love it.
Yeah, I stole that from Adam Levitan on the Establish the Run podcast.
Yeah. But dude, Odunze,
which you should listen to for sure.
No, I do.
Adam Levitan and Evan Silva are great.
I think that what's fun about Seattle, and back to the whole concept of the redraft, is these guys have all become so salient this season immediately. I mean, Lockett, if you have Lockett and you put him in your roster, that's fine. You're fine because the offense is exploding and will continue to explode. Their defense isn't a great defense. It's a fine defense. And I do actually see them making the playoffs because, the Rams and Cardinals aren't very good. And so they should get 4 games there, right? Like hopefully for the Seahawks, they get 4 games there. I hope they lose the Niners twice. And then they're already 3 games into the season. So like that's 7 games. All they need to do is find 3 more games and they make a playoff run. And I think they find that on the backs of the offense and being able to do what they did against the Detroit, who is a run first defense and has a crap secondary. Dude, that was so fun to watch. Like Geno looked legit. He looked so good. And then Kenneth Walker looked like a superstar. What we want Breece Hall to look like if we're pulling it full circle.
Yeah, well, I hope our Seahawks friends up here in the Pacific Northwest enjoy that little pat on the back, because you're not always going to get that.
You're not.
We're
Enjoy the poopy weather.
definitely looking, well, you can take your 110-degree desert and suck it, because I'll take my weather over that any day of the week.
You know that's not where I live.
I know. All right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight on the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast. If you would, please click like and subscribe. Follow us on the socials at LOEGM podcast, or look us up at League of Extraordinary GMs podcast everywhere. You will find us. Thank you and good night.